everyone, and welcome to the Arrows Up podcast. This is Jeremy coming to you on this Friday edition of the pod. I wanted to jump on here and kind of do a recap of the Champions League and the Europa League and what we saw over the last 3 days. Um, do a little Chiefs Chargers as the news of Herbert fracturing his rib came out today. Um, little preview of Canelo and end it with just with the stuff that's coming out of Spain right now, where the high-profile agent Pedro Bravo came on the Spanish show El Chiringuito and made some pretty crazy racist remarks, where he called Vini a mono, which is a like a monkey for that. So we'll get into that and uh, and yeah. So let's start. Let's jump on the pod. Let's start with the Champions League. We started off on Wednesday and no Tuesday. Sorry, we started off on Tuesday, and the biggest matchup I think of this whole week was when we were all anticipating the Bayern versus Barcelona. Lewandowski is back in in Bayern, and it was just the big return for him after the way he left Bayern, just forcing his way out. Which to me felt like out of nowhere. It just seemed like he wanted a bigger platform, almost like the him not winning Ballon d'Or soured his relationship with Bayern, which it wasn't Bayern's fault. But I think just the lack of exposure, playing in Germany, lack of respect, kind of forced him to want to play in a bigger league. Forced his way out. Wanted to go to Real Madrid. Real Madrid was pretty much not interested because of Benzema. They didn't want to add another number nine to play alongside or behind Benzema, which makes sense. I don't think Lewandowski would have wanted to play behind Benzema. Um, it just wouldn't have worked philosophically and from the pride standpoint of both players, and you understand it. He goes to Barcelona, and he's been typical Lewandowski. Lewandowski is one of the best forwards in the world, so his success at Barcelona is not a surprise. I'm sure there's people that thought, oh well, he plays in Germany, and of course he's accumulating all these goals. But at a certain point, talent is talent, and that's going to translate everywhere if you're the top of the top, which Lewandowski clearly is. So in this game, Barcelona had a better first half. They controlled the pace, they controlled the ball, they created chances. This game really boils down to something I always say in games like this is the great saying in football, and you can say it in any sport, is el que perdona pierde, and those that forgive will lose, and that's the saying that is said, and that's what you saw on Tuesday between these two teams. Barcelona had the better team on the pitch, at least in terms of they played better. They created the opportunities. They just couldn't put the ball behind the net. And Bayern did. Bayern did twice, and it was just the way the game ended. Now, as a Madridista, the thing that I don't like, that always seems to happen under Xavi in Barcelona, is they'll lose a game and they'll talk up this we played better, we deserve better. There was a quote that I read, and I had to look up the interview because I thought there's no way he said this. But Xavi was pretty much saying the German fans were being too loud, and that was a reason why they couldn't win. Can you imagine that? But Xavi always has an excuse for why Barcelona doesn't win, why they deserved, and you kind of saw the media that likes Barcelona pump up this thing of we played better than Bayern. It's like, is that what you guys are celebrating? You guys lost. It was still a loss. I don't understand. So um, that was that game. The other notable one, Sporting beat Tottenham in a game where Tottenham just didn't really show up, and So that's going to be interesting to see how they respond, especially on the Conte, who just doesn't stand for that kind of stuff. Leverkusen pulled up the upset against Atletico Madrid, which we'll talk about at the end of the pod. Um, but Leverkusen was just more clinical. Um, and Atletico, they have the team, they have the players, the attackers to get at the forefront of all these things. They're Cholo's strategy is different, and it's just Simeone is always gonna favor his defensive style mentality, and it's gave him a lot of success. But you gotta be willing, capable to push and attack, and Atletico will lose games like these because of their philosophy. So um, that was not so that was not a fun game to watch. Um, and then Real Madrid took care of business with Leipzig. Um, two goals that were amazing. The Asensio goal, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. That was such a beautiful goal. The Valverde goal was amazing. Valverde this year has been, in my opinion, the best player in Real Madrid. I think it's really hard to argue against that just because he's been so phenomenal, uh, just in everything that he's been doing. And Real Madrid just looked really good out there. In the second half, the first half, you could tell they were kind of pacing themselves, and RB Leipzig was creating a lot of opportunities. Nothing really threatening, um, but again, the critics came out. Real Madrid didn't play well, and they kind of held it. But the whole point of this is to win, and uh, and Real Madrid did that. They took care of business, and they went up. They moved up. Juventus lost to Benfica at home, surprising. Um, in a game that Juve just I think needs a whole rebuild in terms of gutting the coaching staff. They keep going to the old well, and I just think it's time for them to bring in somebody a new face, a face that's not connected to their past, but somebody new that can change and shake up uh, what's going on in Juventus because it's very stale. PSG took care of business as well, and Haaland, the cheat code. That guy's just unfair. he he gets the goal against Dortmund, his former club, and Man City beat Dortmund at the very end, 2-1, in a game where Dortmund played well, and we saw a lot of good things from Dortmund. But Man City is just Man City. In the Europa League, um, highlight two things: Man United win 2-0. Cristiano scores his goal. Man United looks better. Anthony's still figuring out his way in the club. Ericsson is the key to the midfield. His passing, he's so smart. He's so good. Um, he was such a big signing for United. And Feyenoord. And I want to highlight Feyenoord because my guy from Cruz Azul, Santiago Jimenez plays there. He scored again. Uh, I'm just really happy for that dude. I hope he succeeds. I hope he keeps moving up. I think he has a chance to be the next great Mexican player. He's that good. If you don't know about him, look him up because he's really good. Es un crack, like we say. But really excited for him. I'm excited that he scored again, and he's just in good form. And El Tata should definitely take him to the World Cup in November, but that's a different story for a different time, for a different pod. Let's go to the NFL. We had such a good game, big game yesterday. Chiefs Chargers Thursday night. Felt really early for that game. You kind of would want this game to happen later on in the year, but we got it early. It lived up to the billing in Arrowhead, and the Chiefs outlast the Chargers. And it just seems the Chargers are just cursed, and they're gonna lose these type of games. Herbert came out with a fractured rib. We don't know how much, and if he's even gonna miss any time. But it was such a great battle between these two. I was thinking yesterday how in sports, we're always so fast to want to anoint the next big thing, the next great thing, the next rivalry. And growing up, watching Brady and Manning, that was such an amazing back and forth. And every year they played, and um, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the next um, version of Manning versus Brady. But I think the Chargers were the better team over 4 quarters. They just shot themselves in the foot, and I don't know. I don't know about Staley. I think they need to bring in a real coach and not a guy who's trying to do crazy things at all times. It just made no sense why he was so focused on just doing weird things where um, he's just too reckless as a game caller, going for going for it on fourth downs and stuff like that. He's just too reckless. One of the things that was interesting watching the highlights after the game as well, and looking at different things in film. Um, the play where it was a pick six, you could tell Everett wanted to come out, and he was asking to come out. Um, it was ignored. He'd stayed, and he ran his route. The pass went to him, but he just whether he was winded, he was a little banged up after the hit. He just was not in position to make that play, and that was picked off right away. So um, I think just little stuff like that that caused the Chargers the game, but I was super impressed by them. They made the Chiefs punt like 6, 7 times, which is unheard of. You don't really see that in the Chiefs game. Um, and then obviously there was the Patrick Mahomes uh, kind of insurance from the refs where they kind of made some questionable calls on some of the picks. Here's what we learned: Arizona is really bad. I bring up Arizona because the Chiefs beat up on Arizona. The Chargers have the talent to to be real contenders, real Super Bowl contenders this season. And the Chiefs are not as good as they looked against Arizona. I think the Chiefs, as they play uh, stiffer competition and teams that have real game plan, unlike the Cardinals, they're gonna they're gonna be easier to figure out. Um, but Mahomes is still Mahomes. The offensive line is still really good, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I was just really excited to watch that game yesterday because it was so um, it was two good teams well put together. I'm excited for the next one, as it'll be later on in the year. I was hoping this one would be later on. It's too early for them um, to be playing this big game, this early. Um, some matchups to look into as we head into week two. Buck Saints. We have obviously the narrative that the Saints own Tom Brady. Brady hasn't beaten the Saints since he joined Tampa. At least in the regular season, he obviously beat them in the playoffs. But I think we need to pump the brakes. Champagne is no longer there. I think a lot of the attitude, the FU attitude that the Saints had when it came to Tom Brady, came to the Saints, came to Champagne. Sorry, um, I think that Brady um, will be able to figure out a way to lead his team into victory on Sunday. And I think the Saints defense is just not that good. Um, Before they had all the corners to where they were able to play man to man, and one of the biggest strengths for the Saints was they were able to just play man to man across the board, and I think that's what made their matchup versus the Bucks really difficult because nobody was able to put man to man versus the Bucks in the past with Godwin, with Mike Evans, with Gronk, and the other weapons, Antonio Brown, stuff like that. Most teams are not able to match up man to man. And the Saints were. This Saints team is not. And so I think Brady's gonna find the mismatch and he's just gonna attack them there. I see the Bucks winning there. Um, I think the Rams bounce back. I think the Falcons can be frisky. I just don't see the Rams losing 2 straight games at home. I mean, I would obviously hope that happens. That would be amazing. I don't see that happening. Um, Blowout alerts. I got two blowout alerts. Raiders, Cardinals. I think the Raiders are gonna dismantle the Cardinals. The Cardinals showed no heart. They showed uh, it was almost like if they had like my little brother come up with their game plan. They were just piecing plays together that made no sense. Kyler Murray just doesn't look interested in out there. Uh, I just don't. I just this has potential to be a 20-point rout by the Raiders in their home opener. Although some would say their home opener was just last week in LA. And Bengals Cowboys. Cowboys look bad on Sunday night. They don't have Dak, and the Bengals are gonna try to avenge themselves after having a pretty rough game in Week 1 versus Pittsburgh. So that should be an interesting one. The one that I think is going to be close and it should be fun should be Denver versus the Texans. Uh, Obviously, Russell's going to try to rebound from losing against Seattle. And although the Texans look frisky, they look good, and they need to give the ball to Pierce. That's what they need to do. So we'll see if they're able and willing to do that over on Sunday. And Vikings Eagles. Vikings Eagles Monday night. It's going to be a hell of a game. I like the Vikings in that one. Their offense looked really good. Jefferson looks amazing. Best wide receiver in the league. I think he's slowly taking that belt away from Devontae Adams. Um, and then the Eagles are good. They had a lot of hype. They had a lot of smoke blown up their butt. But their defense looked really bad against the Lions. The Lions were able to put like 35 points on them. I don't like that matchup for the Eagles. I like the Vikings to go into Philly on Monday night and to win that game. And I'll end it with my beloved 49ers hosting the Seahawks. They played the monsoon game versus the Bears, and it was ugly. Trey Lance didn't look good. Debo Samuel fumbled. Uh, Broken plays led to two touchdowns by the Bears, and that was the game. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that the Niners are gonna destroy Seattle. I'm not gonna do that. I'm a longtime 49er fan, and I know over the course of the last 10 years or so, Seattle has has our number. Seattle has beaten us over and over again, and even when they have bad teams or teams that weren't as talented, they looks good still. I remember like 2 years ago or so, Seattle was coming into a Niner game. They had a terrible defense. Everybody was scoring on them and all that. And they played the 49ers, and it was like the Legion of Boom was back. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I do think the 49ers edge it out. The 49ers are the team that I think they're going to be. Um, and my Super Bowl pick is the 49ers to make it to the Super Bowl versus the Bills. If they're that team, they have to win this game. They have to. They have to take care of business at home versus Geno Smith. Trey Lance should look better. The running game should be better, even though Elijah Mitchell's out. And even without Kittle, he practiced today, but we don't know if he's going to play. The Niners need to take care of business if they're the team I think they are. So that's NFL Week 2. Let's do the racist stuff that's going on in Spain. So this weekend we have Atletico versus Real Madrid. This is the Madrid derby. We have this game is obviously a rivalry game for both teams. This is their hometown rivals: UCLA, USC, Clippers, Lakers, stuff like that, Mets and Yankees. That whole thing. This game's on Sunday afternoon, and Coque, a player from Atletico, came out and said that if Vini dances, there's going to be a problem. It's pretty much a threat. And, that sparked a lot of controversy in Spain. Should he dance? Is he being disrespectful? That whole thing. And then on El Chiringuito, which is a show in Spain, this agent called Pedro Bravo came on the show, and he said that Vini shouldn't dance. It's bad for him to do that, and he's it's being disrespectful to other players. And if he wants to dance, he needs to go to Brazil and dance. And he looks like a monkey doing that. And obviously, almost everyone's come to the defense of Vini. Players have tweeted out their support. Real Madrid pulled out a statement. So it's been a lot of support towards Vini during this time. This kind of stuff happens all the time in soccer. We had like 3 years ago, there was a game between PSG and I'm forgetting the other team, but there was the same thing that went on where the referee, one of the players accused or one of the coaches accused the referee of calling him the N-word. And that game had to be stopped, investigation, the whole thing. This stuff has always happened in football, and this stuff should not be allowed. This agent should not be allowed to say that kind of stuff. Dancing is such a beautiful part, and celebrating such a beautiful part of sports, and especially soccer, where it's so much, way more diverse than football, for example, where celebrations are outlawed. But in football, European football specifically, you have these giant clubs that are being represented by all these type of players. You watch a Champions League final, for example. The winning team, the players have like all sorts of flags because they're from everywhere. And that's what the beauty of the sport, where all these guys come together, playing style, all these things. And I'm not just saying this as a Madridista. Vini should be allowed to dance and dance forever. This Coque and this agent are hypocrites, and I want to believe Coque had no intention in terms of race. I want to believe that he meant it from the standpoint of you're going to play at our stadium, don't dance on our field, whatever. This is the guy who has a teammate in Griezmann who has all these dances, all these Fortnite dances when he scores. Don't talk to me about not dancing. Don't talk to me about respect. This is about joy. Nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with disrespecting anybody. This is joy. And if Vinny's going to score, and I hope he gets a hat trick, I hope he dances the whole time. I hope all the Madridistas dance at the Atletico Stadium. This should not be allowed, and this agent should be outlawed. He should be demanded to ask. Well, actually, I don't know about forgiveness, because that doesn't really fix anything. Because what's poisonous here is his heart. This guy has this ideals of these players that are from other parts of the world, where this is almost like very similar to the Ian Kinsler stuff, where he was pretty much saying that the Dominican Hispanic players are too they're too loud when they celebrate. This kind of stuff doesn't belong in sports. Shouldn't belong in sports. Sports are fun. Sports are an escape. It's a celebration. And if you score, you should be able to dance your way throughout the entire field. That's what I hope happens on Sunday. Sorry. So, yeah. So if you don't know about the story, that's the gist of it. You can look up all the other details if you'd like. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Sports. Let's end this with Canelo. Canelo and Triple G fight tomorrow. David and I did a pod on that, so you can listen to that pod as we break down the fight. Canelo and Triple G made weight. The talking is almost over. Tomorrow they get in the ring. I am nervous, but we'll see. I'm hoping Canelo pulls it together, knocks him out, and we're back on the winning ways, and we're able to have a good fun pod with David over the weekend or so as we recap. I have Canelo, as always. He's my guy. Via Mexico. This is German Arrows of Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram and rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on anywhere you listen to your pod. You can listen to us. So please Thank you for your support. We'll talk to you soon. For the Arizona Podcast, this is Trevor. Until next time.